we need to stop being selfish Rocket League players. Now, I understand it is incredibly difficult while we're playing a game to think about anybody other than ourselves. But the reality of the situation is that if we truly want to rank up and reach the highest levels of Rocket League, we need to consider how our actions not only impact us, but how they impact our teammates as well. So in today's video, we'll be focusing on how you can work to play for your teammates so that you can put your team in more advantageous positions so that you can win games and rank up more easily. Now, it is very important to note that we'll be taking a look at these examples from my teammates' perspective, but this is not to say that I myself do not make these same mistakes. As a matter of fact, many, if not all Rocket League players will find themselves making mistakes very similar to the ones that we will see here today. So we should all be able to learn something from these examples that we can apply to our own gameplay. So we'll be starting off here looking at a play where we try to do just a little bit too much by ourselves on the offensive end of the field. So gonna take a nice kickoff here, rotate on back, grab some pads, fake off this first challenge, that's fine. Ball going forward into an awkward spot for the opponents. We're gonna push on forward here, and yeah, so you can see that we don't perhaps get the best touch. Now, this doesn't look like a whole lot of anything, but it's really important that we take the time to consider where everybody is as this ball comes off the backboard. So, if we saw one of our teammates is rotating out back into our own half, so they're not going to be much involved in this play at all. But we do have another teammate here who still has a decent amount of boost. So as we move up the field here, we want to do a decent job of keeping tabs on where this teammate goes, so we're aware of whether or not we have support in the position we're going to find ourselves in. So as we move forward here, we can see that our teammate does go off screen, but they're not flipping out, they're not boosting out, so we should assume that we do have somebody present in the midfield, and even if we don't, we need to be very careful with what we do with this ball. So if we take a second to look at the defensive positioning, we can see this player here who is inevitably going to be coming down to challenge the ball, but then the more important thing is looking at the two players back here, because as we can see, they're both fairly flat-footed with not a whole lot of momentum going for them, and they're kind of just sitting here waiting to see how the play is going to develop. What we need to realize is that in this kind of position, any shot that we are to put directly on target is more than likely going to be easily saved. For one, if we play too close to the backboard, it's going to get cut off by this guy. Too close to the near post, it's going to be cut off by that guy. And too close to the back post, and it's going to be cut off by the guy here at the back. So there really is no open space in the net. So with that in mind, we need to now figure out how we can put this ball in a favorable position, possibly not for ourselves, but rather for one of our teammates. So if we have the defense all stacked up here on the ground, well then the open space is going to be up to the backboard here, where the ball can bounce out into the midfield, where one of our teammates is more than likely going to be present to take a shot coming forward. But instead, we're not going to consider where we can play this ball to put our teammates in a good position, but we are instead just going to take the first time shot, which is not an advantageous position for our team. And this is the kind of decision making that we want to eliminate. Making decisions that just throw the ball on target in unnecessary positions where a better play was available if we only considered how to put our teammates in positions to be successful. Because instead of utilizing our teammates here, we're just going to take the first time touch directly to the opponents, and now not only are we going to be very slow to rotate back, but our teammates now have to deal with a very fast and very dangerous counterattack purely because we didn't look for the open space and just handed the ball directly to our opponents. So be very careful when you guys find yourself on offense. If you see the defense really stacked up in the net, don't play the ball directly at them. Even if it means that you are not able to set yourself up to do something great with the ball, all you need to do in that position is look for the open space and find ways that you can possibly involve your team so that you don't have to attack the defense by yourself. Moving on forward here, we're going to see an example where we find ourselves just a little bit out of position, and it makes our teammates' life very difficult in terms of trying to work this ball down the field. So we're chilling on back, ball going up the sidewall, teammate looking for the pass, and Unfortunately, we are just not in a good spot to receive this. So there's two kinds of issues going on here. Obviously, you can see at the back end of this that we do have a teammate who runs out to get a corner boost in a situation that, realistically, we can probably all agree is not necessary. So was there some confusion on the back end? Absolutely. But let's look at how we can put our team in a more successful position purely from how we position ourselves on the field. So once we recognize that this ball goes up the wall and that our teammate is going to stay on it, the very important thing that we need to consider is that we need to be very careful about how far we move up the field as we're waiting for this possible pass. Because when this pass comes out, we don't want to be caught underneath it because it's going to prevent us from being able to jump, therefore basically handing a free ball to the opponents when one of our teammates is out of the play. And realistically, even if our other teammate is back, if a rocket of a shot is coming from this area of the field, it's still going to be quite difficult for them to save, depending on how they're positioned. So it is extremely important that we make sure that we play our position quite well here, so that we prevent any further awkwardness on our goal line. So as we push forward here, we can see that a pass is very possible, but we don't want to get even with our teammate here, because when we do that, it's going to make it very difficult for our teammate to actually hit us with this pass. You see, the big problem is when a teammate goes for a pass, ideally we want that ball to be laid out in front of us so that we can carry our momentum forward to challenge the ball. But the further we move up the field, the further our teammate has to throw the ball forward in order to put it ahead of us, and that means the closer that it's getting to our opponents, which is what we're going to see here. Because we move forward so far that by the time this pass comes out, we're just directly underneath the ball in a spot where we are simply not able to jump. And our opponents who recognize that are able to just jump on forward for a free ball. But compare this instead to if we had been just a little further back. Not a whole lot, but just a little bit. So let's find ourselves here. Here we are. So let's imagine that we stayed back in this area here. And now watch this. This is easy. We win this ball. We can jump up. We can get a touch here, no problem, because we're behind the ball and we're able to attack it as soon as the opportunity presents itself. This puts our teammates in a successful position to be able to make this pass. This kind of positioning makes this pass very difficult for our teammate, and now when they try to go for it, we've pretty much just forced them into a position where they're not actually passing to us, but rather passing directly to our opponents. So make sure when you guys are positioning in the midfield that you stay slightly behind your teammate, especially if you're expecting that pass across. You don't want to put yourself in a spot where you're not going to be able to go for the ball because the ball just flies over on top of your head. Moving on now to another defensive example, we're going to see a moment where it is very important for us to just force the ball to try to make our teammates' life as easy as we possibly can. So we're sitting in the midfield here with 43 boost, the ball is over our head, and we just don't jump. Now, in comms, I do remember this moment where our teammate here did say that he felt very awkward and felt that he couldn't jump, but that's a very important lesson for us to learn from. Because at the end of the day, yes, you might be awkward, yes, you might feel like you're in a bit of an awkward spot, but really, we don't need anything great out of this play. All we need to do is try to make the life of our teammate as simple as we possibly can, so that they can have as easy a ball to play with as possible. So looking at this entire situation here, ball coming off the sidewall, teammate gets the clear downfield, we have 43 boost. What is important to note is that with about 40 boost, you have enough to easily make any single touch that you could possibly need to on the ball. So with this ball being very high in the air, yes, it's awkward, but we absolutely can reach this ball without a whole lot of trouble, especially because when we look at the defense, nobody is currently jumping up for this ball. And now the big question with all this is where exactly is our teammate positioned, and this is when it's very important to just have awareness. So as we land here, we can see our other teammate landed in the back corner, and as we're moving up, we can assume that they're somewhere behind us. We can't see them over here, like we can't see them anywhere here. So our teammate is going to be somewhere back there, more than likely still either in the middle or on the right side of the field. Which means when this ball gets boomed in this area, it's really on us to be able to turn, to be able to get some kind of challenge to allow the last man back to have a very simple time with this. And if we flip on over to our teammate's perspective, we can see that, yeah, he is sitting far back as last man. So realistically, we have a great opportunity here if we jump up and get a touch out to the right corner where our teammate will be able to turn on it and generate a control play down the field, which puts us in a very advantageous spot. But when we just don't jump and we just sit on the ground, especially if our teammate is expecting us to apply pressure to this ball, we just create this position where both of our players are in the exact same spot, and it means that we just can't get any kind of save at all because we allow our opponents to walk through for free. So in a position like this, you just need to recognize that it's okay for you not to get the greatest play on the face of the planet. You just need to get this touch to help your teammate and make it as easy as possible. The big thing here is that even if you flat out miss this ball, the important thing that's going to happen is it's going to make your opponents think, which means that while you're in the air, they have to respect the fact that you're up, which means their decision-making changes. When you just commit to staying on the ground and give up all this space to them, they no longer have to worry about you because there's no actual pressure on the ball. Then they can just do whatever they want with it and get easy goals like this. So don't be afraid to get yourself in a little bit of an awkward spot if it means that you can make life easier for your teammate. All we need to do here is jump up and just try to get our car in the way of this, preferably play it out to that back right corner if we could, but we're just trying to make our teammates' life a little bit easier here, rather than letting them walk right down the field like that. In our final example here, we're going to see one of the most minor of minor things, but still a very important thing to talk about, and we'll see it right here. I don't know if you saw it, it was very slight, but we are not going to get back for this ball, and once again, we are not playing off the information we have available with our team. So going on back here, we're kind of awkward in this corner, but not the end of the world. We do get the clear downfield. We do recognize that we can't do anything on the ball, so we go for the bump. This is all well and good. We miss the bump because he jumps over us. That's fine. At this point, this ball is bouncing off the backboard. We need to recognize at this precise moment the situation we're going to be in, the fact that our team is probably going to be rather aggressive, simply because we are down to the final 24 seconds and we're down by a goal. So we need to take that all into consideration when we decide where we're going to go from this spot on the field. So we have two options from this position. Either we go out to their corner or we rotate pads. Those are pretty much the two options that we have. And if we're going to go to the corner, we need to be sure of two things. Number one, we need to make sure that we have time to do so, and that we're not going to be taking ourselves out of the play for too long in order to swing all the way out here. The second thing that we need to be sure of before we do this is that this boost is actually here. Because if it's not here, then taking the time to go out into this area is just an absolute waste of time. It's going to delay our rotation, and it's going to mean that our team is in a much more vulnerable position than we really should be. So in a spot like this, where our ball cam is looking back over our shoulder, because things are happening so quickly with where that ball is in that corner, we don't really have the time to flick off ball cam to really look for that corner boost. So the safest and easiest play to make in this position is just to rotate out through the small pads, get whatever we can, and be ready to play off the ensuing challenge. Because if we find ourselves out here, if our teammate were to win this ball, we're able to turn very quickly and possibly challenge the ball off the backboard or off the sidewall, wherever it might go. But in this situation where it does end up going all the way down the field, we have plenty of boost to play with back this way and a very easy save, a free ball to play with, and now because the opponents have pushed up fairly far, we have a pretty good chance to launch one more effective counterattack. But when we commit for that boost that's not even there, slow down our rotation without any consideration as to how fast we really need to get back to keep our team in a good position, we just go too slow and we give up a free goal, pretty much sealing the loss in this game. So the really important thing that you guys always have to consider is that Rocket League is not about what you are going to do on the ball or how you are going to recover out of certain situations or what you are generally going to do on the field. The real question that you should always be asking is what can you do to make the life of your teammates easier? So many people like to complain about how bad their teammates are, but they never actually take the time to look at how their actions are impacting the play of their teammates. So it's really important that you guys focus on playing for your teammates. That's a big lesson that we all need to learn, and I promise you that this is an issue that we all really struggle with from time to time. At some point, we all make decisions that immediately put our team in bad spots, purely because we're not thinking about how our actions impact the team as a whole. So if you guys want to push into the highest ranks of Rocket League, I highly recommend that you consider working with this mentality and take the time to go back and look at your own replays and possibly even look at the game from your teammates' perspectives to see how your actions are impacting their play around the field. Of course, thank you everybody so much for watching. I really do appreciate each and every one of you who made it to this point in the video, and I do hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you did, make sure you click that subscribe button right down below so you make sure you don't miss any future Rocket League content. Additionally, if you guys would like to be a bit more involved in the community we're building here, make sure you do check out my Discord, which will be linked down in the description. And as always, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. See you later, guys.